Hi everyone. Hello everyone, this is Kate and welcome to an hour of miracles. Just an hour of me allowing, just really handing over to truth, just allowing my mind to be free of anything it has to say, which isn't much. So let's start with a prayer to the Holy Spirit. It's always good to start that because we're going always being mindful to engage the right mind. So we're really, the Holy Spirit is our right mind. And we're engaging that right mind when we ask for, when we just say a prayer openly. So Holy Spirit, be in charge. I put you in charge of my day. I put you in charge of this talk. I just put you in charge of all my decisions, all my responses. Everything I say, I completely surrender to you speaking through me. Amen. So that's my prayer, but if you have got any upset, you can just call on the Holy Spirit or Jesus and just ask him to correct your mind, correct your thinking. So it's a funny thing when you start with the Course in Miracles, because it's asking you to call on part of your mind to correct the other part of your mind. So it can be quite an unusual aspect, especially when you come maybe from traditional religion or even atheist or anything you hold in your mind. As you come to the Course, we're asked to join with a part of our mind that has the truth in it. So, you know, this is an interesting thing, and for some it's not easy. It wasn't easy for me. And initially when I came to the Course in Miracles, I had issues with the gender, the he's and his and sons. So that had to be undone before I could open up a bit. So as we come to the Course, we're just going to have all these layers undone. We're going to be triggered by so many different things, and then as they're undone, we're going to then open our minds just a little bit more each time as that's released. So we see the resistance to the things that we're reading start to be released. And each level is released. There's just a deeper opening to what else is written there. And then we come to this part where we're asked to join God in our minds. We're asked to come to an acceptance that the words have come from somewhere outside time and space and come through someone's mind here. And then we're asked to join with the Holy Spirit, which is our mind, to correct our false mind. So in a lot of ways, when you think about these things, it takes a lot of willingness. It takes a lot of willingness to persist and keep reading and keep applying and keep being willing, and to notice where we're resisting something in the Course. us to notice where we're resisting any of the teachings, because he says they're going to be startling to us. And I always like to say to all my students, this is your journey. Forget about what anyone else is doing or what they're using to help shift their perception. Some people go out and they start doing other things, and that seems to help them for a little while. So the Holy Spirit will use all the things in the world, will use many things to help shift your perception. Some people awaken through movies. I awakened through the movie of my life. I had the Holy Spirit really guide me on everything that was going on in my life. And then at times I joined with the symbol of Jesus when the fear really ramped up. I felt really intuitively to join with Jesus. And then once that joining was more familiar, there was sort of more of a bonding there and a more of a continuation of that. So it's interesting that, you know, you're probably, if you're watching this video, you're looking at a body, you're listening to words. But what the teaching is telling us is that we're not here, that these bodies and the words that are coming through, these teachings are coming through to awaken us from a dream that we're in. And all we need to do is listen and just we can take that on board. We can reject it if we like. And it doesn't matter really, because what Jesus is telling us is the truth is true. And one day, there'll just be a bit more willingness and a bit more acceptance. We're awoken gently from the dream. And it doesn't matter if you take some time off from the course or, you know, go off and do something else, or at times feel that you might have not really understood it, or you might have talked about it or posted on Facebook or on social media about it, and you may have been posting from a place that wasn't very clear. All that doesn't matter. The fact is, what I came to see was nothing mattered about what I did. Really, nothing matters, because you're in God's mind right now. You're not in this world of physicality. It doesn't really matter what you do here. It doesn't in a sense, and I'll sort of go through that a little bit more. What you do here, what voice you listen to. If you listen to the voice for love, you will awaken. But if you're in the ego and you're still reacting from the ego, still getting upset, still suffering depression and anxiety, anything like that, it still has no effect on God, on where you are. So what I started to see was, even if I had a bad day and I reacted and I got angry with someone, or I might have snapped at someone, or I might have not been as loving as I could have been, I wasn't extending the love that I was, or if I felt a lot of guilt or a lot of fear, even when I did those things, it didn't matter. It literally didn't matter, because the ego cannot have any effect on our holiness. So that's why it's called the dream, because in a dream, nothing really happens. It seems to happen. So we come to see that if we do, say we get angry with someone, or we get upset, or we, there's something that we do, and then we feel guilty. We have to see that the guilt is also part of, it's part of the dream as well, because that guilt is saying to ourselves that what I have done previously has had some effect. So say I've been rude to someone, or I've decided that I don't like someone and I've decided to not speak to them. I might at a later stage feel guilty about that. But what the Course in Miracles is telling us is that nothing has happened in truth. Nothing can affect where we are or who we are. Nothing. In any moment, you can just come back to your holiness. You don't have to earn the holiness. You don't have to pray. You don't have to, go to church and say 10 Hail Marys or something like that. This truth about who we are is just so magnificent, and it's right here, right now. So even if you've been a mass murderer, you are still as God created you. There is nothing you can ever do in this world to alter your holiness or who you are. It's impossible. And this is a really beautiful teaching for us to hear. So what we are asked to do is not to worry about the guilt, not to worry about what we said, not to worry about how we've thought. Jesus calls it the ego that's going to speak first. It's going to use its thoughts to tell us about others, and it's going to convince us. It's a thought system that convinces us that we are a separate person living in a world of separate bodies, of buildings, of jobs, of roads, of cars, of houses. We are so asleep. We have got no idea how unconscious, how asleep we are. We literally, it's so far out of awareness. It's a really good thing to also understand, is how out of awareness the truth is. So this then allows us, when we accept that there's a lot of our mind that isn't in our awareness, this allows us to come to really lose this idea that we're in touch with what's in our mind. When we're told that there's like an iceberg and that only a little tip of it is in our awareness or our consciousness, and that there's a whole lot that's unconscious, that can be quite a daunting idea. But when we reading the course and we're reading the teachings and we're getting a deeper understanding of it, we have to really surrender and give up that we know anything. We have to really come to see that how we've interpreted this world and how we're thinking about everything is completely false. We have to see, first of all, we can have a lot of resistance to it. And I think the only thing that can really draw you in and draw you back is two things. First of all, the suffering that you're going to experience from being in this egoic mind, the suffering that it causes, the living in a thought system that constantly keeps you looking outside yourself for happiness and constantly finding no happiness. And we will continue to do that until there just comes a day where we just say, hey, what he's saying is true. We just have to really consciously, say what's in my experience. When I'm reading the course, is this in my experience? There has to be, I want a better way. There has to be some sort of giving up. And once there's a giving up, just that sort of surrender of, no, I've been searching and searching for happiness, and it's never lasting, it's fleeting. So we really come to these teachings from a place of, well, what I've done hasn't worked. And then, in my experience, I was confronted with this whole amazing teachings telling me that I wasn't even here in this world. I was in the mind of God, which had no form, and that this world has actually got no reality at all except what our minds are giving it, and that it's a projection, that we're living in a world that seems very real, and when we're asleep in a dream it seems very, very real. When we're in a dreaming at night, it seems so real to us. And sometimes when we wake up, it can take us quite a while to go, wow, that was a dream. It can seem so real. And it can take a little while for us to really comprehend that this is a dream as well, that we're in this dream. And quantum physics tell us that things here are getting put together by our observation of them. Now, I can't tell you that I understand quantum physics like a professional. I've dabbled a little bit in it just from interest, to see how it's correlated with the teachings of A Course in Miracles. And I was very interested in to see that the quantum physics or quantum mechanics lined up. And interestingly enough, to hear that when I touch something with my finger, that it actually never touches it. There's a tiny gap, and that what I believe as my finger touching it is actually not occurring, and that it's occurring in my mind. I'm seeing a picture and I'm getting a feeling. And that can really be quite unsettling to us, because we start to see, what can I trust then? If, what is this world? What about my family? What about my job? What about my house? What about my pets? So this is why we're woken up very, very, very gently, because this truth is true no matter how much we don't want to see it's true. And I have many people, or not many people, a few people around me that don't like this teaching and try to convince me that it's not true, that the Course is saying something else. And I continue to teach from this teaching, even though it can bring up a lot of fear. But what I'm here to say is that you will not disappear when you enter into these deeper teachings, that there is no world, that the world is in your mind. They'll come this awakening will come very gently. And what happens is that you've still got your family. I've got my children, I've got my grandchildren, I've got my husband, I've got my mother and my father, I've got one of 6 children in my family. And nothing has changed in regard to my interactions with them. But it's like, what happens is it's more like I'm an actor, or I'm a character in a movie. I'm in the world but not of it. But what happens is I'm more in love with everyone I meet. I'm more in love with my family. I actually love them so, so deeply. But I love everyone that way. But for my family especially, it's surprising, because there can be this idea that, how will I interact with my family? But what actually happens is the fear to love leaves. All the fear drops away. And you start to see them as who they truly are. They're in your mind. They're in the mind of God with you. They're the characters playing out here is your family, but who they truly are is this Christ self, this innocent, perfect, whole self. And that's who I've got a relationship with. And so, all through the Course, he's asking us to see our brother sinless. He's asking us to see the perfection. He's not asking us to see a perfect body. He's asking us to see beyond the body. You might want to say it's the Holy Spirit. I'm going to see the Holy Spirit in him. I'm going to see. It's whatever works for you. But it brings you, these teachings bring you, you sometimes think, holy hell, where am I going to end up when I really embody these teachings? But I say to my students, I call them my students, but they're not really, they're just minds that have been directed to me for some help, and I don't even know how I'm helping other than just working for Jesus, working for the Christ mind, just saying, I will teach your teachings for you. So if anyone turns up, I'll teach these teachings to them, and I'll just witness to the result of them. But I'll also hold their hand when they go through a lot of fear, because what happens in this world is our individuality is highly regarded. So it takes quite a long time to release this individuality and start to trust an inner guide. So to go from relying on yourself for everything to go to relying on a voice within to guide you about everything can take time. So give yourself time. You've got plenty of time. You're here in a world of time and space. So just allow yourself, don't push yourself. So everything works together for good. All the teachings of A Course in Miracles work together for your awakening. Every time you ask the Holy Spirit to guide you, you're working together for good, for your mind, for all minds. The healing of all minds is happening. And some of the teachings of A Course in Miracles can be quite startling. It can take many years to actually get your mind around all these teachings about the world and the projection and what I'm projecting and what I'm saying and how my mind's finding is hurling out the guilt. And so it's just a very slow unravelling, little piece by piece, just bit by bit. And many times you will fall back and try to find happiness in the world, try to choose for yourself, try to plan something for yourself. There'll be times where you can't give everything over to the Holy Spirit. That's really what we're being asked to do. We're just, to give everything over, to give all our relationships. We have to have no attachments to anything in this world. And that's also a difficult one. And that's just seeing it's really, this powerful choice of, do I want the peace of God, or do I want something of this world to be a certain way? Because what happens is, as soon as, say, I was to say, I want my husband to stay with me for the rest of my life, that would be an egoic desire. It would come from fear. It would come from this idea that I know what's best. And it would also come from that I need to shore up all the things that I think need to be done to ensure that he stays with me. And that would be all based on fear. So it's also called an idol before God. And any time that I think that I want something, I lose the peace of God. So for me to be free, I have to lose all my attachments to anything or anyone being a certain way. I have to lose the attachment to even somebody agreeing with me or liking what I say or even understanding what I say. A lot of time minds don't understand what I say, and actually they say back to me something that I've said that I haven't said. And I have to be okay with that. Sometimes I might say again what I've said, just to try to be clear. But if I say it a third time, I'm defending something. So sometimes you have to just let other minds just not understand. So like Byron Katie, I look forward to being misunderstood. That's part of it. No, Jesus wasn't always understood in his message. In fact, he was greatly misunderstood, wasn't he? So this is the path. It's not always an easy one because we're going through a huge change. We have to come to this Course in Miracles at some stage and like draw a line in the sand and say, I am wrong about everything. And sort of like throw yourself off the edge of a cliff and say, okay, give everything to you, Holy Spirit. That's what he says, come to God with empty hands. Forget this course, forget everything you've ever learnt, leave behind all knowledge, everything you know of right and wrong, everything. He's asking us to leave behind every bit of knowledge we have, everything we think we know. So, that takes quite a lot of courage, willingness. And if you can't do it now, don't feel guilty. If you say, I'm not ready, I'm worried about my finances, I think I need to go and do this, this and this to make sure I have enough money. Well, just go and do that. That's okay. But eventually, you have to give everything to the Holy Spirit because this trust, you need to develop trust that you will be cared for. And this studying the course is a very private matter between you and the Holy Spirit. It's really you being quiet and joining with the right mind. And on my journey at times, I was so fearful. I got down on my hands and knees beside my bed and I cried and cried and cried. I was so scared. I just called out for God. I just said, you have to help me. I'm just terrified. But it was all about being a body. It was all about me and my body. I was still of the awareness that I was a body, and that I didn't have an awareness at that time that I was spirit or in the mind of God. That was out of awareness at the time. But they were times, that's what happened. But I was answered. There was some, I can't remember the details, but I remember that calling out for God. And we have to do this. We have to constantly surrender on our journey. We're just asked to give little things to him and trust. So if you need some money, if you're needing something, don't try to guess what you need. Just give it to the Holy Spirit and trust. And you have to have infinite patience, because it will come at the right time. And infinite patience brings immediate results, because the immediate results are now. Right now, when you're concerned about something in the future, if you have infinite patience, which means patience that is infinite, it's not, okay, I need it by tomorrow. We need to learn these things. These are like little things that we need to practice and become aware of, and we have to come to see how they work for us. So there's all these little parts of the Course in Miracles practices that we need to put in place. We need to really come to an understanding that we don't know anything, but we're willing to learn. And then, we have to look at the obstacles to that peace, and we have to see the obstacles in our own mind. That's where we work at all the thoughts that are coming into our awareness during the day. That's our journey. What am I fearful of today? When I get into bed and the fear thoughts come in, a lot of people share with me that happened. I think I used to get a lot of my fear thoughts during the day. At night time, I'd sleep quite well. It doesn't matter whether they come in when you're going to sleep or whether they're during the day, it's all the same. We have to use the teachings of the Course to come to alleviate that fear. And sometimes it can be just I rest in God. Just rest there, just rest in that trust. I don't need to do anything today. It's all fine. One of the good things that I get my students to do is just to say, do you have a bed? Do you have food? And do you have clothes on your back? And if you do, you want for nothing right now. Because all the fear is something in the future. It's all based on that I won't have a bed, a house, some sort of covering over my body. I won't have food. I won't have something that I need, and it'll all be really based around some sort of suffering. Could even be that I won't have the medicine that I need, or I won't have the support that I need. It can be anything. It doesn't matter what it is. You just need to focus on right now. Right now, I have everything. And then look around you, and if you find that, or I say right now, you don't have anywhere to live, what I would do if that was the case is I would sit and ask for help, and you'll get an inspired idea. You might get to ring someone up or go for a walk. I've had friends tell me that they've had nowhere to live and they've walked down the street, talked to a lady, and she said, come and stay with me. A lot of people on this journey actually don't have homes, and in fact, in reality, we don't really own anything, or our stability is not in the house structure, because the house can fall down at any time. Owning a home and thinking that if we buy ourselves a home and we pay it off, that we're going to be safe is not true. These things can be wiped out at any moment. where our safety lies is in our connection to the Holy Spirit, where He'll just guide us. He knows what we need. And our time of death is already done, because we're reviewing mentally what has gone by. So this dream that we're in, it looks as if you're watching me now or listening to me now, it looks as if this is happening now, but this has already been and done. It's a whole holographic world. Linear time it's seen as happening now, but it's already done. Every choice you've ever made has already happened, and the only thing you ever have the power over is to choose between the ego and the Holy Spirit, the decision-making mind. That's it. That's our only choice, because our choice is we're always choosing the ego. There's only the ego and the Holy Spirit. So we come to see that we're always choosing the ego, and then we start to choose differently, and there seems to be different outcomes from that. The world starts to, we start to see a different world from our internal change of mind. So I'm going to read this small paragraph from lesson 23. I can escape from the world I see by giving up attack thoughts. And section 4, and I think I might have read this out before, because there's certain parts of the course that I really love that seem to really embody what I've been talking about today. You see the images that you have made, but you do not see yourself as the image maker. You cannot be saved from the world, but you can escape from its cause. This is what salvation means, for where is the world you see when its cause is gone? Vision already holds a replacement for everything you think you see now. Loveliness can light your images, and so transform them that you will love them even though they were made of hate, for you will not be making them alone. And that means you'll be making them with the Holy Spirit. So we go home to God. This world is not our home. But what our ego mind made, we're the dreamer of this dream. We made this dream. We didn't come to this dream by accident. We made it. We chose everything. But that's all out of awareness. But you sometimes can get the awareness that you chose it. I've seen for myself what I made, how I did it, how I chose it, how I wanted it. I actually wanted people to seemingly hate me, because then I could project onto them. But I created a meaning to their words and actions to make them guilty. So we start to really get an insight into what we're doing. And it takes radical honesty to look at this. It really does. You need to really get quiet and say, if I'm upset with someone, I've put a meaning on something they're doing, and saying there's something you really need to stop and look, really let it open up, really let the meaning of why and how start to come up into your awareness, and you'll get a seeing of it. You really will. You have to be really quiet and let it come. And what he's saying here is loveliness can light your images. So what happens is that we come to experience the loveliness of this world, where there is another way. And, you know, the reason why we go through a lot of fear is because we're going to God, and the ego's, the old way's still trying to hang on. And just pay no attention to the ego, just give it no life. That's why we overlook it all the time. We just know, I'm not looking there, I'm not going to believe that, I'm not going to believe my thoughts. That's rubbish, that's not true, that's the ego. I'm going to look at my brother as true who he truly is. And maybe I didn't do that yesterday, but today's a new day. I'm going to do it today. I'm going to see the innocence, I'm going to see the beauty, and I'm going to extend love to my brother. And just make that your mantra. Just say, you know, this, whatever has happened isn't real. It has no effect. God is love and so am I. And just keep strong in the truth. And vision shows you, it changes the world, you see. It literally, because the fear has fallen away, you just feel more open and feel more loving. There's just a meeting of everyone. There's a experience of oneness. It's not about bodies. There's just like, I've sort of gone back to this word spiritual eye, which is from the early text. The way Helen wrote this spiritual eye, because it's like there's something that sees from a spiritual point of view that is not part of your eyes. And it's like the perception changes. So your mind's not interested in what bodies are doing or saying or how they're looking or whether they're good or bad or pretty or ugly or well-built or fat or short or thin, or every single judgment is dropped. It doesn't mean anything. The body is completely, the judgment of bodies it just leaves. It's just not, your mind doesn't care. It does not care about what a body looks like. It's loving what's within. And as we love what's within, we're loving within us, because then we're told that there's nothing outside of us in truth, that we are. If this world is, if these characters, he says, we're the image maker. If we're dreaming this dream, then the only way out is to reverse it and see the loveliness of everyone here. Because nothing real can be threatened. You can't be threatened by anything in a dream. So all these things work together for good. I've tried to bring in as many teachings as I can in this hour, just in my own way and just to talk. I do, want to just say, very gently that these teachings all come together as a ultimate holographic teaching, as one teaching. They all join together. But in their bits, they're sort of pulled apart by Jesus and put into 365 lessons, but they've got some themes, and these themes have to be sort of looked at and it's sort of taken apart and thought about, but they're all merged together in the end into truth. They all work with each other. They're part of each other. And that's part of the knowledge or the knowing. In awakening, you start to see that how these teachings flow into each other. And so to escape from, or to be free of this world, we have to be vigilant. We have to be really vigilant. And we may not like these teachings, but we need to practice them, and we need to come with great willingness. We have to see that it's the only way to be free, and just to give ourselves over to them, and just to practice each day, just this deeper trusting, asking the Holy Spirit to help us understand it, like illuminate it into our minds. What, you know, if you can't understand something in the Course, just to say, you know, help me get this on a deeper level. And you will at times step back. That's okay. That's all part of it. And then you'll come forward again. And when you're ready, you'll just come forward again, and you'll just go into it a bit deeper. And yes, at times you'll be battered around, you'll be back in the ego, you'll be back in the world, you'll be back at effect, thinking that you're at effect of the world. And then it's just a little bit of willingness when you're ready. There's no forcing it. Just when you feel ready, you just come back. But even all that's in the script. It's all scripted. There's millions of scripts. That's the thing, because it's outside time and space. So our minds that think in linear time can't understand something that's outside linear time. But when your mind starts getting beyond linear time, it's like I now can have an understanding of things that are outside linear time that I could never understand before. And I can't even tell you how I understand it or what understanding it is, but it's like a knowing of something, a knowing that it's all happened in the tiny tick. But I still look normal. He says in the Course, you know, you'll look like everyone else and everyone will think you're like them. And look no different, sound no different. But you're coming from a completely different state of mind. So our journey is to just keep noticing our thoughts, because the thoughts are where we have to work. He says many times, just work with your thoughts. Notice them, let them go, don't react to them. Don't react to your thoughts. If you find that you're stuck, do some inquiry on them to release them. Become more and more aware of what thoughts are in your mind, because you're at effect of your thoughts. So that just happens in time. The more meditation and the quieter you can get, the more you will start to slow your mind down, and you'll be able to observe your mind. You'll be able to observe these thoughts, and you'll start to actually witness them from another place, and witness them as not your thoughts, just thoughts are coming and going, coming and going. And yeah, that's it. That's really the start of it and the end of it. Work with your thoughts, just constantly look at these, undo. Just if you've got a really great process that works for you and you've found one, forget about what anyone else is doing. If whatever works for you, keep doing it. If it stops working and you find something else, then do that. This is your journey. This is your journey to awakening. Don't worry about what anyone else is saying or doing or what they believe in or how they're doing it. You go your way. No one follows the same path as anyone else. It's your determination and your willingness to watch your mind rather than be at the effect of your thoughts is what counts. We need to watch these thoughts. We need to sit quietly. If you've been upset by something, you need to sit quietly and look at them. You need to be completely devoted to watching your mind and I mean, it's the right mind that's going to change it, but in the end, it's all just going to get sort of beyond you. It's like there's something that just shifts on its own. So it's on the hour, so I'm just going to say goodbye and do a blessing, because in truth, we are one. We're in the one mind of love, and we are love. And so thank you for joining me today. I love you, I bless you, and I honour you. And have a beautiful week, and I'll see you next week. Just turn all these things off now.